Good Thursday evening. Looks like my cat is joining us in the background tonight. Welcome to our webinar entitled Freedom. These 4 stages guarantee you break free. I love it. I think that's a great title for our webinar tonight, and I am super excited to share it with you. So welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you're here. I need to know, have you ever heard this word before? Have you ever heard anybody say the words, "I'm just stuck"? Have you ever said that? Have you ever heard somebody else say that? Those words? Yeah, raise your hands for me if you've ever said those words. This will be a good chance for us to practice the raise the hand button that is at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching on your phone, you might need to tap at the bottom of your screen, or you might need to slide your finger across, but you also have reaction buttons. So now let me find my reaction button screen. There it is. There we go. So raise your hand if you've ever heard anybody say those words or you've ever said those words. And there we have hands going up. Okay, so I have people here. Well, I'm glad that you guys are here. My name is Ann Washburn, and that's Eva right back there. If you guys were wondering who the white cat is that likes to join me in my office. And tonight, I want to address that concept of stuck. I want to address the opposite of it, which I'm going to call freedom, because that's something that we want more of in our life, is more freedom. More freedom of what? What do we need freedom from? Well, if you think about it, the word stuck, we sometimes will use that word if we get, like, for example, a couple of days ago, I was doing some laundry and I had on some jogger pants that had really baggy ankles. And when I went to leave the laundry room, the edge of that baggy pant leg got caught under the door. And I couldn't pull my foot out of the laundry room, and I couldn't step back in. I was stuck. I was stuck in a kind of precarious position because I had one foot in the air and one foot on the ground, and I was halfway out the door. And I didn't know what I was going to do, because I was either going to fall this way or I had to get my foot unstuck. So sometimes we get physically stuck. But what are other ways that we get stuck? If you've used that word before, stuck, what are other ways that we get stuck? Do we get stuck in our thinking? Because sometimes we'll interact with somebody who, and you can tell me in the chat other ways that you've noticed that you can get stuck. I remember once when I was a kid, I heard my parents talking about a neighbor, and they said this, they go, "Well, she's just stuck in her ways." Have you ever heard that before, that term, that you just get stuck in your ways and you can't do things differently? Right, we can get stuck creatively, right? It's like Melina says, creatively. We can have creative block, writer's block. We can have painter's block, creativity block. Emotionally, we can get stuck. Mentally, we can get stuck. We can get stuck because we don't know the answer to a question, or we can get stuck because we can't remember a word. Oh, Cindy, that's a good one. She says we can get stuck in stuff. Clutter can cause us to be stuck, that we can't move through a room. Stuck in habits. That's a great one, Diane. So there's lots of ways that we get stuck, but we need to know how to break out of the stuckness. Oh, that's a good one, Vicki. So Vicki says we can get stuck in time, that maybe we've worked ourselves into a corner with all the things that we've scheduled for ourselves, right? That's a great one. Brenda says, I was stuck in negative thinking the last few weeks. I'm doing not much better, and I'm so glad to hear what you have to teach us tonight. I'm so glad you're here, Brenda, and good job getting out of that stuck negative thinking. Because we do, our brains are actually wired to repeat and pay attention to patterns. Our brains are wired that we enjoy seeing patterns, but we also enjoy repeating patterns. So we can get stuck in lots of different ways in our lives. Yeah, Cindy says financial. Liz says fear. We can get stuck in fear. So these are all fantastic examples, you guys, of where we get stuck. So I'm going to ask you tonight to participate a little bit. Okay. So what that means is that wherever you're watching from, if you can get a piece of paper and a pen, or maybe you pull out notes on your phone and you type some notes, but I'm going to ask you some questions. So you're going to need a pen and a paper, and I'm going to show you these questions one at a time. And I don't want you to overthink the questions, but I do want you to answer the questions, because one of the things, if you don't know much about me, my name is Ann Washburn. Like I said, here's my cute husband, Clint. I showed him this picture tonight and he goes, oh my goodness, I look so chubby in that picture, because he's actually let go of 36 pounds this year. So round of applause for my husband for accomplishing that. So proud of him. But this is my husband. I am a mechanical engineer by training, and I've also delved and studied greatly, much more than I ever studied in college about engineering. I've studied now in psychology and how our brain works. But I am a problem solver by nature. So I want to understand how people work. I want to understand how I work. You know, I made the comment tonight, earlier this afternoon, I was talking to one of my children, and I described the past version of me. I said, I was talking about 10 years ago. I said, what I did, I was just describing this little situation that has happened. And I said, oh, well, I kind of just assumed that they were being mean. And my son says, oh, yeah, like you used to do all the time. And I was like, oh, yes, I used to be a very different person than I am now. I would take everything personal. I would be very frustrated by people around me. I would want to control everyone and everything. I spent a lot of time in very unproductive patterns, like emotional eating. Let's see if you can relate to any of these. In fact, if you have an unproductive pattern that you've ever been stuck in, type it in the chat and let's just see really quick if we have any matching ones. So I would emotionally eat. I would hide to eat. Have you ever done that one? Like I have a special door on my pantry that I would keep a bag of chocolate chips where the kids didn't know about them, so that when no one was looking, I could just grab a handful of chocolate chips. Has anybody ever done that one? Because chocolate chips, they're little, they don't really count. I also would simmer in a lot of resentment and assumptions and judgments. And I would want my husband to fix everything, because I believed if other people would change, my life would be good. That the things I wasn't liking in my life were not because of me, they were because of other people. Has anybody ever been stuck in that one? Not enough knowledge to make a decision. Self-isolation, good ones. Emotionally eating, yes, can relate to that one, huh, Marlene? Oh, so can Sharon, we're not alone. Yeah, so whatever our patterns were, mine were, I also had a lot of patterns of believing that I was not a good person. So I had a lot of comments in my head that would say things like, you know, Anne, your kids would be better off with any mom than you, or your husband deserves a better wife than you. I had comments like that would go through my head all the time. Lashing out, believing we're justified in lashing out. Good one, Liz. Finding reasons to put off acting. Good one, Melina. Absolutely. So that's who I used to be. And so I decided as a scientist, as a problem solver, I was going to figure this out. So that's when I jumped into the world of psychology, self-help, mentoring, training, and body language expert. I deeply study all of these concepts and apply what I learn. But what I'm really super good at is taking these complex concepts and boiling them down into simple, actionable packages so that we can take action. And that's what I want to share with you today. In fact, I want to share with you, let me count how many I came up with finally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I narrowed it down to 6 examples of where I have helped people package down into simple, actionable packets, information that if we wanted to go study this for ourselves out on the internet or in books or in college, it would take volumes and hours and so much education to be able to utilize it. So I love taking the complex and reducing it down to the simple, actionable steps. And so if you are here tonight, I hope that that's what you would like to have too, is simple, actionable packets of information, because lots and lots of dumping of information is not going to help us to move forward. So I am somebody who wants to help people do that. And that's what I've devoted the last, wow, it's coming up on 13 years. In November, it'll be 13 years that I have devoted of my life to not only helping me, but then helping others with the same actionable advice that has helped me change into a different person. Because my kids will tell you, I am a very different person than who I was 13 years ago. I understand how to manage me. I understand how to manage my thoughts, my emotions. I understand how to communicate with my physical body. Boy, I'll tell you what, that has been a journey, learning how to actually communicate with my own self. Because I know these people would say, oh, just listen to your body. I'll tell you what, that is not somebody just says do that and you suddenly know how to do it. It doesn't work that way. But I finally can say that I do know how to do that. And I love it. I love being able to understand me. Now, does that mean I'm perfect? No. But does that mean I can notice when I get stuck? Yes. And does that mean that I know what to do when I notice I get stuck? Double yes. So that's what I want for you. So if you want that for you, raise your hand, because I need to know if I'm preaching to the right group of people here. Because if not, we can totally change. I mean, I can talk about any subject all night long. Right? Okay. So about a third of you raised your hand on that. So if you didn't raise your hand on that, and that's not what you're looking for, then just type in the chat for me, what is it that you're here for? What brought you here? What got you to click on a link that said, hey, let's talk about freedom. Let's talk about stages that will guarantee you break free of your stuckness. Because if it's not to be able to put into action, because maybe what you showed up for is you want to change all the other people in your life. You know that if they'll change, your life will be good. Or maybe what you want to do is change the government, or change your neighbors, or change your in-laws. That would be a good one, right? That's what we should have. We should have a webinar on how to change our in-laws. No, that's not what we're here for. That isn't where the power is, because that's what I believed 13 years ago. I believed that the power was in getting other people to change. But what I know now is that the power is in me being able to communicate with me being able to notice my stuckness and interrupt the stuck pattern. All right, so do you have your way to write down? If you do, tell me yes in the chat or raise your hand so I know that you're ready to answer these questions. All right, fantastic. So our questions tonight, I'm going to show them to you one at a time, and I'm just going to play some quiet music in the background while you answer these questions. So just answer them with the first answer that pops into your head. Don't worry, you don't have to show your answers to anyone, but I want you to be able to see what's going on inside of your own head, because there are answers there that you're in the habit of not listening to. You have answers in your head that you are in the habit of not listening to. And so we need to ask questions, because I know as a body language expert that asking questions opens doors inside of our head for new information, for new knowledge. So let's answer these questions so that we have space for all these powerful concepts that we're going to learn tonight, and then be able to choose to take action on. Cool? All right, so let's get my quiet music here. Okay. Too loud. Too quiet. Just right. Okay, take a deep breath. Here's your first question. Where are you stuck or holding back? Where are you stuck or holding back? Do you hold back in relationships? Do you hold back in your business? Do you hold back forgiveness? Where are you stuck or holding back? Question number 2. What does it feel like to be stuck? Maybe you haven't given a lot of thought to that, but stuck definitely has a feel to it. What does it feel like? Maybe it has a color. Does stuck have a color? Maybe it has an odor. What does stuck smell like? If you reach out and touch the container, maybe you're stuck in a container. What temperature is that container? What does it feel like? Where would you be if you were not stuck? If you weren't stuck, what's outside of your stuckness? What's out there? Is there things you would do? Are there experiences that you want to have? Are there relationships that you would like to have feel different? What would it be like if you were not stuck? What would you accomplish? Would you do something different? Would you talk different? Would you listen different? Why do you need to be unstuck? Maybe it's comfortable in your stuckness. Do you need to be unstuck? And if you do, why? Why do you need to be unstuck? And besides that, why do you need to be unstuck? And what are 4 things that are holding you stuck? So if you imagine in your head that you're stuck, and that there's 4 things outside of you that are pushing on you to make sure you stay stuck. What are those 4 things? What are those 4 things that are keeping you stuck? And then finally, who needs you to be unstuck? Who's counting on you? Who needs you to move forward? Is there anyone? Maybe you've never thought about this before. Does it matter? I mean, you are one of the 7 billion people on this planet. There must be a reason why you are here. So what would it mean if you got unstuck? What would that help? Okay, so those are our 7 questions. Did you answer them all? Take another deep breath. Kind of sit up in your chair or wherever you are, maybe comb some energy off of your neck or stretch a little bit, because some of those questions caused you to feel the bondage that you're in, because bondage has a feel to it. So raise your hand if you answered the questions. Let me know. I want to see if anybody even answered the questions. All right, fantastic. Good job, you guys. Way to answer the questions. And if you didn't, why didn't you? Are you afraid of the bondage? Because that's what these questions are designed to do, is to cause you to feel the bondage. Maybe you're held back by ropes across your back or your arms or your feet, or maybe you're in a box. But we need to actually feel what that stuckness feels like. Yeah, and Melina says, I'm still working on it. You can answer them more. You're more than welcome to answer them more. But in the interest of time, I'm going to move into what we're going to talk about tonight. But those questions, you can take a screenshot of them, right? So that you can, so that you can come back to them, so that you know what the questions were that you were answering. Sorry, let me add this to my slide right here. There you go. Now you can take a screenshot of them, so you can remember where you got them. So we need to talk about, first of all, your brain. Your brain is a big part of why you're on this planet. We're on this planet to experience the opposite of what we were experiencing. How do you do a screenshot on your phone? So most of the time you will take and you'll push the two buttons. On an iPhone, you'll push this button and this button. It's the power button and the volume button. You just push those at the same time. And I think it's similar on an Android, Sharon. But that's how you take a screenshot, okay? Great question. So we as humans, we came to this planet to get to feel the opposite of what heaven was like. So if you wonder what heaven is like, think about the opposite of what we have here. So if heaven was love and light and freedom, we came down here to this planet to feel the opposite, so that we could more fully appreciate the love and light that we had there. And so whatever your belief system, if you want to think about the opposite of stuckness, then we get to realize, well, let's look at it this way. If you want to know what light is like, one of the ways to appreciate light more is to have darkness. When the power goes out, that's when we're most grateful that we have the lights and the power. If you want to appreciate your air conditioning, have the air conditioning quit working in the middle of the summer. If you want to appreciate hot, then get really cold. This is how opposites work. And so that is what we're here to do. Well, that means our brain is going to help us with that. Our brain is actually programmed to repeat patterns, but our brain is not wired to make sure that those patterns are good for us. So we can get stuck in those patterns. And those patterns don't, because here's what happens as a human. So both humans and animals, which Eva is our representation of the animal kingdom tonight, humans and animals both experience stress. I know because Eva, on the 4th of July, my daughter came to visit and she brought her new puppy with her. My cat was stressed. She was so stressed when that dog was here. She just, even though we kept them apart, she looked through the window at that dog and she just bristled the whole time because she's like, what is going on here? But now you notice the dog's gone. She's fine. But what do humans do? We're not just fine when the stress leaves. We re-experience that stress over and over and over. I can't believe. So if Eva was a human, she would be going, I can't believe they brought that dog. Don't they know that I would be scared of that dog? Don't they know that dog's bigger than me? That's scary. It was a really cute dog, you guys, just so you know. It was really cute. But if Eva was a human, she would re-experience that stress over and over and over again. Not only that, she would be willing to pre-experience. So for example, if we would have told her, hey, guess what? Kaylee's going to come over and bring her cute new puppy, then Eva would have been willing to pre-experience her stress. Oh no, this isn't going to go well. Dogs are bad. I can't handle this. She would have been willing to pre-experience that traumatic situation before it ever happened. That's how humans are wired. We're wired for that. But not only that, our modern world, this is a slide from my last month's webinar in June when I talked about building trust. Not only that, but our modern world with all of the information and technology and social media and all of the places to get information and misinformation and disinformation and fabricated information, it puts our brain into the, I guess I should show you this one first. I'll show you 3 of them. So our brain, when we're young, when we're born, our brain is using slow brain waves. And as we age, our brain waves get faster and faster. So as an adult, we usually operate between 13 and 50 waves per minute. That's what HZ means, is hertz, waves per minute. And these 3 right here, I'm going to show you on the next slide right here. These 3, we call them low, mid, and high beta brainwaves. So this is what most of the time we spend our time in. Well, what moves us from low to mid to high is our level of stress, the level of stress in our life. And stress, like we just learned a minute ago, stress or trauma, our brain is wired to get stuck in that. We can get stuck in it because we're willing to relive and pre-live experiences. Does that make sense? Do you follow me so far? Just pretend I can see you and nod your head. Okay, there you go. So this highest level of the beta brain waves is the most stressful. This is the survival, emergency, hyper-focus, fight, flight, or freeze. It is danger-focused, it's distrust-focused, but it keeps us in a holding pattern because we're on the lookout for the next piece of the stress. Remember the whole re-experience, pre-experience? So because of that, when we get we have to actually consciously work our brain waves back down. Now, if you don't think, so I've talked about in the past that we don't have direct influence over stopping our heart or stopping our brain. And we don't want to, but like our breath, we can stop our breath. No breathing happening, but we do have an influence over our heart rate. And I know this because I have on my watch here, it measures my heart rate. And the funny thing is that when I'm nervous about something, I watch my heart rate go up. I can see it going up. In fact, there was this time I was, for CrossFit, we were doing a competition. It's the funniest thing. The competitions are the same kinds of workouts that we do every day at the gym. And this girl and I were like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, I am too. And she goes, isn't this silly? It's just a workout. It doesn't matter, but we're so nervous. And I'm like, I know. And so I lifted up my watch and my heart rate was going 112 beats a minute. And I was just standing there. But I was so nervous that my heart was responding. Our physical body responds to the stress level that we're in. So my brain waves were at this highest stress level. So my watch doesn't measure brain waves, but I can tell based on my heart rate where my brain waves are at. I know because I am in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. My emotions will tell me as well that I'm in a heightened level of stress. So we spend too much of our time up here and our body responds to it. And chronic stress, we all know this, will cause dis-ease in our body. Our blood pressure can go up, our cortisol levels stay high, our insulin response is too high, and it causes our body to go into a survival state, which is hold on, hold on. That's what this tries to do. So it's in a holding pattern. So it's telling us to hold on. What will we hold on to? What will we hold on to, you guys? Come on, you that have been around me enough, you know the answer to this. We will hold on to weight. We will hold on to clutter. We will hold on to assumptions and judgments. We will hold on to stories. We hold on to these things because our brain is saying, hold on, hold on, hold on, right? So what do you hold on to when you're stressed? What do you get? Because some of it we're tricked into holding on to, and others we choose to hold on, but we choose for the wrong reasons. So maybe I hold on to a resentment towards an in-law. Maybe hi, don't come over here. Maybe I hold on to a resentment towards an in-law. Maybe I hold on to a story of how somebody has hurt me in the past. Maybe I can't make decisions about things in the yard. So I hold on to a bunch of stuff that should get cleaned out of the yard or out of the house. What do you hold on to? Do you hold on to anything? Because I'll bet you, if you are in our modern world, that you're holding on to more than you need to. So now we got to look at this. Yeah, we'll hold, Melina, that's a good one. We'll hold on to choices. We won't make decisions. We'll wait until there is no longer a choice to let the choice be made for us. Like maybe what plans do I want to do for the 4th of July? Oh, well, I could go this place or this place. And then we wait until it's too late to go to either one. And now we no longer have a choice. That's a good one. So if you've ever held on to anything because of stress, raise your hand for me, so I know if you understand what I'm talking about here. Because otherwise, we'll talk about it some more. Okay, you got it. So what happens now is that if I hold on to these things, they become a pattern of self-sabotage. Oh yeah, asking for other people's approval. That's a good one. For sure, Tim. Belief I cannot fix it myself because I have failed before, right? Oh, that past failures. We hold on to past failures instead of learning from them and moving forward. So all of that becomes a pattern of self-sabotage. And patterns of self-sabotage are most of the time illusions. And these illusions happen because of what we're afraid of. Yeah, I'm responsible for keeping everyone else happy. That's a good one. So we're going to talk about illusions for a minute here, because illusions will help us to understand our patterns of self-sabotage. So there's three main types of optical illusions. There's literal illusions. There's cognitive illusions, that our brain sees something that's not there. And there's psychological illusions. So causing us to even feel things or interpret things differently than what they are. So let me give you an example. This is a literal illusion. So here we have some birds flying in the sky, and somebody was able to snap the picture at just the right angle that it looks like what? A happy face. Is it actually a happy face? I would be interested to hear how you answer that question. It's actually 3 birds in the sunset sky, but the literal illusion is that there's a happy face in the sky. So we can see things because of how our patterns work inside of us. And those patterns can be good. There you go, 3 happy birds. Great, Jared, I love it. 3 happy birds. But we see things And it can be good things that we see because of the patterns that we have. The problem is your brain is wired to see negative patterns 3 times more often than positive patterns. So we have to be conscious and intentional about our positive patterns. So let's look at some examples of illusions. This one is this is a perceptual contrast illusion. So a perceptual contrast illusion is an illusion that exploits the way our perceptions are influenced by the surroundings, by what's around us. So this is a famous perceptual contrast illusion called the Ebbinghaus illusion. And you've probably seen it before. And in this illusion, the illusion is that these 2 orange dots are different sizes. That's the illusion. So which one's larger, the one on the left or the one on the right? The reality is that both of these orange circles are the exact same size. See that? Both of those orange circles are the exact same size, but we see them differently because of what they're surrounded with. So where does this happen in our lives? Where do we see something differently because of what it's surrounded by? So this could be clutter, right? When we're surrounded by clutter, we see our world differently. In fact, when I was doing the slides for this webinar, I was in I call it my comfy office. So this is my presentation office, but I go out in the living room on the couch when I want to be comfortable. And when I was out there, the floor, in this one spot next to the floor, somebody had tracked from my husband's office some shredded papers. So we've been shredding a whole bunch of papers because my husband cleaned the entire garage, you guys. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. He spent, it would probably took him a couple of weeks because our garage was so full of clutter. It was so full of clutter. We have a 3-car garage and you couldn't get the cars in the garage. So he cleaned the whole thing out, top to bottom, side to side. And now 3 cars are in there and you can walk around the cars. Oh, holy cow. But I can't remember why I'm telling you that. I just got so excited about it. But that clutter caused me to see the garage as something to avoid, something I wanted to keep the door shut. I didn't want anybody to see in there. But now I see the garage differently. When I'm out in the garage, I feel differently. So clutter is something. And yeah, Melina said, who you hang out with, the people you hang around with is going to change how you are viewed. When we're too emotionally full, we will also see things differently. Our perceptions, because that's what this is. It's a perceptual contrast illusion. If my stories about things are negative, I will see the people around me more negatively. Thank you, Paulette. And so we've been shredding a big box of papers that we found in the garage, and some of that shredded paper got tracked in from his office into the living room. And I'm like, I can't think straight. So I got up, I got the vacuum, I vacuumed all of that shredded paper trail, and I came and sat down and I was like, I can think again. So all of those are good examples of how our surroundings are giving us stuck patterns, or what did I just call it? Patterns of self-sabotage. So let's look at another. Well, first, let me ask, anybody perceive things around you negatively because you get too full of emotions or you have too much clutter? Has that happened to any of you? Raise your hand if it has. Brenda says, that is so me. Okay, so you understand that one. Well, look at this next one. This one's really cool. So this one's called an Ames room illusion. So this one plays with depth and three dimensions. And so you've probably seen this kind of one before too. So in this one, so let's see if I can play it for you. I set it up so I could. Look at this one. Isn't that crazy? She's enormous. Look how big she is. And he's so tiny. Oh, wait a second. No, he's enormous. No, wait. Now these people are moving back there. So wait a second. Why are they? Yeah, the fun house at Lagoon. I miss the fun house at Lagoon. That was a really cool place. So what's going on here is this. In the Ames room illusion, it's all about perspective. Our perspective changes what we see. Did you hear that? Our perspective changes what we see. It tricks our brain into seeing things at a different size than what they are. And here's what's going on. This room is actually not a rectangle. It looks like it's a rectangle, but actually this point is way further back than this point right here. So it's a trapezoid. So those people, yes, I got it right. Phew. So the guy in the green shirt right here, the guy in the green shirt, the girl in the orange dress, the guy in the green shirt is standing right here. We think the girl is standing right here, but she's actually standing back here in this corner. So when we look at it from right here, this is our perspective right here, we are seeing them as smaller because they're further away. So how does this play with us? Where is our self-sabotage pattern in our lives from this? Our fears make things look enormous. Our stories, sarcasm, taking things personal. Those are all things that mess with our perception of how big a problem is, or how big something we're interacting with is, because we have sarcasm, stories, fears, or we're taking things personal. So if you've ever done any of those, raise your hand for me. Raise your hand, because I've done all of them. I'll raise both my hands, right? These are cool. These are so cool, right? You guys like them? Okay, let's look at the next one. So this next one is called the Herman grid illusion. This plays with colors or shades. And in this one, our perception of color or shade or contrast is manipulated through the placement of things. So this one is just a bunch of black squares. But because of the way they're placed, we think we see things that aren't there. Do you see the gray dots between the black squares? These gray dots are an illusion. And it tricks us into seeing things that aren't there. So see if you've ever done any of this in your life. This would be equivalent to assumptions or judgments. Have any of you ever gotten stuck in a judgment or an assumption? I have. I will admit to that one. Oh, not as many on that one? I'll betcha I could help you find some assumptions or judgments in your life. Because we'll make, oh, okay, we're going to admit to it now. There's all the hands. We do this all the time. We assume that somebody is really trying to be mean to us when really they're just feeling hurt and we're the closest outlet. Or we'll judge somebody as having known that we wanted. So, for example, maybe I really wanted to go to a certain restaurant, and my husband said, "Hey, where do you want to go eat?" And I said, "Oh, it doesn't matter, wherever you want to go." And I, at the same time, assume that he already knows where I want to go. And so then I said no, wherever, and he takes me somewhere. And then I'm like, oh, how come you took me here? You should have known that I would want to go to this other place. Has anybody ever done that one before? That's kind of a tricky one, huh? But we make assumptions and judgments about people that are driving down the freeway. We assume that they're a bad driver if they cut us off. We judge that they're not very nice. You see people all the time. I saw this driving home from CrossFit yesterday. This guy was turning the corner and he all of a sudden pokes his hand out the window and makes a not very nice gesture. And I couldn't even see any reason why, but he'd made some judgment about somebody. We do it, people do it all day long. All right, let's see if you've ever done this one. This last one is called the rotating snakes illusion. So this is a motion illusion, okay? An emotion, not emotion, motion illusion. A motion illusion involves the perception of motion or movement when there isn't any there. So if you look at this one, if you focus on this black dot right here, you'll see this one is moving. But if you look at this one over here, it looks like this one is moving. So movement is happening to your brain when there's no movement happening. So where is our pattern of self-sabotage here? This one comes up in procrastinating or learning but not taking action, or busyness. So have you ever been stuck and said, oh, I'm so busy, I just can't take on anything else? But you haven't really looked at what you're busy with, and nothing. Yeah, this one's kind of a mind bender, huh? It's like, why do they keep moving? And you try to look at the one that's moving and then it stops moving. It's tricky. But so is busyness or getting stuck in learning. Those are also motion illusions in our life. And nowadays, I showed these last webinar. Nowadays, the illusions are being perpetuated and increased. There's more and more illusions. So these next 6 pictures some of them are actual photographs, and some of them were created by a computer generation. So this one, can you tell which ones are the real ones and which ones are computer generated? So my purpose in showing you this is to show you that nowadays it's getting harder and harder for us to spot our own patterns, because it used to be simpler. We used to be able to say, oh, well, that's not real, and that is real. But this one is actually a photograph. This one is computer generated. This one is a photograph. You see all the fire? There was actually a fire that came through, and they were able to get this photograph. This one, if you notice, this bear right here, this is real, this bear and this bear, but then this one and this one have been cut and pasted over here. This one, this is an optical illusion, but it's a real photograph. They just snapped it at the right moment that it looked real. Yeah, there weren't shadows there's only shadows on those 2 bears. So this one's a real photograph, and this one is computer generated, because you'll notice that there's a whole other city back here behind. Actually, there's a whole bunch wrong with that one. But the point is that it's harder and harder to spot our patterns of self-sabotage, because there's so many patterns to get stuck in. So today, my purpose, like I told you, is to give you 6 examples. And so I'm going to have to go through these examples kind of quickly. because I want you to be able to know how to get out of the sabotage. So this pit right here represents our patterns of self-sabotage. And to get out of our patterns of self-sabotage, it's too big for us to get out in one step. We need a ladder that lets us out. And so this right here, the ladder is in these 4 steps. So if any of you have ever come to my Break Free intensive class that we used to teach live, this was the framework that I used. So this is my first time sharing it in a free webinar, but I used to teach this in a 2-day class. And in this 2-day class, what I would do is I would have people, they would put their name in a hat if they wanted to have the chance to come up on stage. And then we would pull them up on stage and I would mentor them for 30 minutes in front of the class, in front of hundreds of people. And I always went through this framework. I was helping them to find their pattern of self-sabotage. Do you think your brain wants you to see your pattern of self-sabotage? Does your brain want you to find it? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat. I want to see what you think. No. Why? Why does your brain not want you to find it? Your brain doesn't want you to find it because it only is interested in keeping you alive, not keeping you happy. Your brain is not wired to keep you happy. In fact, your brain actually is wired that when something becomes normal, your brain sees that as pleasurable, not happiness, normal. So if your normal is stuck sabotage patterns, if your normal is sabotage patterns, your brain will see that as pleasurable. Joanne says she was on stage when she came to that class and it was scary, but very awesome. Thora, I love that. Thora said she got picked to come up on stage when it was an online class. I love that, Thora. That's awesome. I'm so glad you guys are here. So our brain is not interested in happy. Our brain is interested, let me find my note here. Here we go. Oh, shoot. All right. Well, our brain isn't wired. I can't quote it to you. Why do I not have it written down right here? I don't know. But our brain isn't trying to make us happy. It's trying to keep us comfortable. It's interested in being able to repeat things. Right? Jared says, I've experienced this in a weird way where the ugly was the desirable. Yeah, because it's normal. It's the normal. And we are actually in the neurochemical habit of feeling bad. The shame fix, like sugar withdrawal, urges us to feel bad again. And so this is why I would help people to be able to find their self-sabotage pattern. Because whatever your self-sabotage pattern is, if you can find it, that's the first step in climbing up the ladder. So we got to find the pattern of self-sabotage. Then I need to reprogram that. So that's where I help people take the complex of their pattern down to simple. And from simple, they can move into the last 2 steps here. So let me give you an example. So in the email that I sent out, the very first email, if you read it, I talked about a mentoring client that she came to her appointment and she said, I asked her a very simple question. I said, how are you doing? And she goes, busy and stressed. And then she paused and she said, as always, busy and stressed as always. And I was like, oh, wait a second, because I don't listen only to what people say. I listen between the lines. So I'm listening to the pauses. I'm listening to the tone of the words. I'm listening to words that get an inflection that's not in the place you would expect in the sentence. I'm listening for all of those. And as I'm listening to that, I'm hearing that this is a sabotage pattern. And the sabotage pattern is when it's found, we have to make a choice about. We have to make a choice about it. So I said, whoa, wait a second. That's a pattern of self-sabotage. That's a stuck right there. And so I told her, I said, your choice, now have to make a choice. Do you want to keep that pattern or do you want to interrupt it? And what do you think she said? Do you think she wanted to interrupt it or keep it? What would you want? Would you want to interrupt it or keep it? Holy cow. I'm totally pointing at my screen and not sharing it with you. There you go. So I told her that's a pattern of self-sabotage. Interrupt it, right? Everybody says they want to interrupt it. But what do people usually do? They don't interrupt it. Why don't they? And the reason is they don't know how to fully, they don't know how to fully see the pattern. If you can't fully see it, you can't interrupt it. You have to see it to interrupt it. And so I said, okay, if your choice is to interrupt it, then we've got to go through the 4 steps. So I said, we got to find the steps of your pattern. So I told her, I said, all right, what? So then I'll ask questions, okay? Because questions help to put words to our patterns. So I asked her questions about it. I said, all right, so talk to me a little bit about busy and stressed. And as I listened to her, I saw this picture build in my head of somebody that's carrying around a lot of responsibilities. And so I told her, I said, all right, imagine you're holding a plate. Because have you ever heard people say, I have a lot on my plate? Yeah, they say that all the time. And so I said, let's imagine you're holding a plate. Tell me what happens when you get a new assignment or a new responsibility. And she's like, I pile it on the plate. And I go, okay. And then what happens? She says, well, more and more and more gets piled on the plate. And I'm like, okay. And so it gets really, really, really full. And then what happens? And she's like, oh my gosh. Melina says it gets mixed with the mashed potatoes. No. She says, then I believe that not everything can get done. And the way she said that, I knew that she had found a connection to an emotion. And I'm like, ooh. And so if you believe, because that's a pattern, right? Belief is a pattern. I said, if you believe that it can't all get done, what will you do next? And her eyes got wide and she said, oh my gosh, to survive, I let everything else go. And what is everything else, you guys? Sleep, healthy eating, exercise, socializing, and family were hers. She's like, oh, I just let those go because I can only deal with what's on my plate. And so anything that's going to help me, that doesn't have room in the plate. And so she lets everything fall. Well, what in that situation, what do I want more? I can hide or I can grow. I can't do both. And so if she can't, she needs those bento boxes. There you go, Melina. I can't do both. So either, listen carefully to this, either I will serve the old coping pattern or I will serve my new pattern. I can't serve both masters. I can't serve the old pattern and the new pattern at the same time. Because the new pattern is the interrupt for the old pattern. And so she had to decide. She had to decide, does she want to stay in that pattern? But she couldn't fully choose that until she knew what the pattern was. Okay? But too often we try to choose to interrupt a pattern before we fully interrupt it. We got to choose twice. We choose, yes, I want to interrupt it. So now I need to find the pattern. We found the pattern, and now she could fully interrupt it, or she could fully choose to interrupt it because she knew what she was interrupting. And what she was interrupting was this pattern that she lets her sleep, her exercise, her good eating, her socializing, and her family all fall until what? Until she gets sick and she's forced into taking care of herself, or until she catches up, which never happens, So then I helped her to choose a new pattern. But that's just one example of a self-sabotage. Look at this one, because this was another appointment this week. This person came to me and they said, the very first thing they said in their appointment was this. They said, let me read it to you, because they wrote it down before the appointment. They said, I want to work on the lie that I am lazy and don't handle stress well. That's what this person said they wanted to work on. Well, this first one, remember this first person that we talked about, she said she was busy and stressed as always. This next person, they said, I have a lie that I'm lazy and can't handle stress well. And I'm like, well, tell me more. Let's find the pattern. Let's find it. And as I was listening to this person described, let me get to their page here. Because in this journal right here, I take notes from each of my mentoring appointments. As I'm helping the person, I said, all right, so tell me about why there's a belief that you're lazy and you don't handle stress well. So as this person talked about it, I paused him and I said, I listened between the lines, you guys. It's not the words that they say. It's not the words that's going to tell you the pattern. It's how the words are said. It's the tone that's used. It's the things that are left out. And so I stopped this person. I said, it sounds like you think, because this person has big goals. And I said, it sounds like you have two beliefs. One belief is that you have to do it alone. And your second belief is that it has to be done by tomorrow. And they looked at me and they're like, yeah, exactly. But I never said that. How did you hear that? And I'm like, that's what I heard between the lines. This is why we have to get it out of our head and onto paper or through our vocal cords, because we can't fully find the pattern by just thinking about it. Because let me ask you again, does your brain want you to interrupt patterns of self-sabotage? Nope. Your brain does not want you to. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Melina. They were not that self-aware. That's what I had to help them with, because we tend to try to solve the problems in our brain that our brain doesn't want us to find. We can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So my brain does not want me to find the pattern of self-sabotage. So step one is to find the program. So for this person, it was, I have to do it alone and it has to be done by tomorrow. So to reprogram, to go to the second rung here now, we have to simplify. We have to simplify the pattern. We have to simplify it, because if I can't simplify it, my brain can reject complex much quicker than it can reject simple. Let me say that one more time. Our brain can reject complex much faster than it can reject simple. So in the reprogram step, I need to simplify the pattern. So that's what I did right here. I got out a screen and I said, we're going to simplify it. So if you think you have to do it alone and you have to do it by tomorrow, that sounds like you have to eat the whole elephant all at once. Oh, yeah, that's a simple way of looking at it. Okay, so we wrote that down. And I said that, so now when you have to eat that whole elephant, the next question is, what happens when you have to eat that whole elephant? Now, this person did not know the answer to the second part here, but I asked them questions until we could crack open the pattern enough to pull this out. And so the next step that they do is they label themselves with a negative adjective about themselves. Because I asked them, I said, you came to this mentoring appointment. This was a personal one-on-one mentoring appointment. So both of these people that I've talked to you about right now, they are from my personal one-on-one mentoring appointments. So this person, they came to the appointment saying, I want to work on the lie that I'm lazy and don't handle stress well. So I asked them, I said, are you lazy? And they're like, no, I do tons of stuff. I said, do you handle stress? All the time. I said, then why would you label yourself with those? Why would you come up with a label that points to you like that? And there were, and then I put it right here. I said, it's because if you can label yourself with a negative label, you now have permission to avoid or the goal or take no step towards the goal. You can now avoid the goal or take no step towards the goal. Labels. These are descriptive words that we use to describe ourselves or other people. And those labels can be very damaging. Right here, the inner speech, your thoughts can cause you to be rich or poor, loved or unloved, happy or unhappy, attractive or unattractive, powerful or weak. That is from Ralph Carroll. So that's what was going on with her, was she was using a label to get out of having to take steps towards eating the whole elephant. Okay? So then what happens is, if I feel like I have to eat the whole elephant, I'm going to label myself with a negative adjective. Now I have permission to avoid and take no step, and I can quit. So desirable, so alluring. But if this person doesn't quit, then what happens? Because I asked them, I said, well, what happens when you don't quit? Well, I keep considering the goal, they said. Okay, well, if you keep considering the goal and it still has to be the whole elephant, it needs to be done tomorrow and it needs to be done alone, your subconscious still doesn't want to do that goal. So the bypass is also going to have a sabotage. So this is a sabotage pattern inside of a sabotage pattern. Do any of you have multiple layered sabotage patterns? I will raise both hands on that one. Only a few of you? I bet you do. Those multi-leveled sabotage patterns, oh my gosh, right? Okay, so their sabotage pattern inside of their sabotage pattern is that if they didn't quit the first time and they keep considering the goal, now they would get flooded with emotions, whatever kinds of emotions. Very common ones is sabotage, self-sabotage, or not sabotage, overwhelm. Anybody ever use overwhelm as an escape mechanism? Absolutely. Overwhelm is a great emotion to get flooded with, because then we have permission to not think. And if I have permission to not think, I will take no action. And if I take no action, I don't have to think about quitting, because I just will let it happen, and I will just let life happen, and the goal never happens. Whoa. So then what I did was I helped this person to find interrupts for this pattern so that they could move towards the goal. These were catered to their particular flavor of self-sabotage program. Because the thing is, this statement right here, I am negative adjective about myself. Those words, when they are repeated over and over again, become stories that combine and get reinforced so that they become my new reality. So when that person came to their appointment and said, it's a lot, I'm lazy and I don't handle stress well, the reason they knew it was a lie was because they're like, well, I don't have any evidence that I'm lazy, but I keep saying and thinking I am. I keep feeling like I am. Yes, a negative label gives us a false sense, or a false freeing, because the false freedom is to quit or to take no action. And that is not the right kind of freedom that we want. Very, very insightful, Vicki. Yeah, or too many decisions, Shauna. Clutter helps us with that. So your pattern might be, if you keep considering it, you get you get flooded with decisions instead of emotions. So this one right here could be flooded with decisions. And that's how clutter serves us. Because if I have too many decisions, if I have too much clutter, I have too much decisions. And so that gives me permission to not have to move towards my goal. Whatever this was up here, maybe your pattern is this right here. You're just considering a new goal and you get flooded with decisions. Well, that gives you permission to not think, and no action happens. And so there you go. You get to reinforce and live in your pattern of self-sabotage. Yay! Not yay. Not yay. So anybody that was actually saying yay, no. Suck that back in. No yay. It is not yay. We want to get out of our pattern of sabotage. And some of you might be wondering, how did people even figure out how to get mentoring appointments with me? Because usually I just talk about breakthrough coaching. But you know what? I currently have 2 openings for personal mentoring clients. I looked at my schedule earlier today, because when I work with people one-on-one, this is not just a mentoring appointment. This is them being accountable to me during the week. So we'll meet on Zoom one-on-one like this once a month, but in between we have phone calls, we have texting, I call and check on them, I message them. And when they answer, I read between the lines on their text messages. This happened just this last week with somebody that I personally mentor. They messaged me. Let's see, I can find them right here. Here we go. They said, because I like to get pictures too. They said, hey, today I'm going to go to a wedding. I'm going to go to a wedding. And I just said, let me know how it goes and send me a picture, because I love pictures. Well, they sent me a text back and a picture, and they said, there were lots of feelings at this wedding. And they gave me just a short little text. And I said, I think we should jump on a phone call tomorrow. And they're like, really? And I said, yes, there's a lot of thinking going on there. And after that phone call the next day, she's like, oh my gosh, thank you for letting me process through that right while it was all fresh, because it cracked open a whole different layer of being able to understand her pattern of self-sabotage. And so it's a powerful thing to be able to have a mentor in your corner for a year. that's helping you to break patterns faster than the way you installed them. Because you took decades to install those patterns, but you can unravel those patterns when you have a mentor in your corner. It's a powerful thing. So if that's something you've ever wondered about, you could book a call with me and I'll answer questions about what it looks like to personally mentor with me. Now let's go to the next person. So the next person on the list is this one. So this person, oh, this was a good one. So I got on the phone with this person and I'm going to show you this slide because they said, this person said, I need you to walk through a specific scenario with me. And I'm like, awesome, bring it on. And they said this person has a couple of young teenagers. And they said, my kids keep handing me their emotions. And usually what will happen is I don't handle their emotions very well. And then they disconnect from me. And I was like, oh, and that's all they said. But in that, there were 3 parts. So let's just see, could you hear 3 parts in that? So let me say it one more time. They said, my young teenagers will hand me their emotions. Then I don't handle them very well. And the kids will disconnect from me. Do you hear the 3 parts now? Now that I said it again? Yeah, you can hear them, right? The kids hand me their emotions. I don't handle them very well. And then the kids disconnect. Now, you might not have heard those the first time because you weren't used to listening for them. But the second time when I told you to listen for them, there were 3 parts. Now, then what do you do now that you've heard the 3 parts? What do you do with the 3 parts? Do you want to guess? Do you want to play mentor with me? What do you do when you hear those 3 parts? Well, the first thing I did was write them down so that they could look at them. Okay? Because if we can write them down, now we can see them with our eyes instead of trying to see them with just on the inside of us. So let me make a slide here. So there's the slide. Let's go get this right here and let's put them down right here. So the first one was, I get handed emotions. Whoops. Okay. You get to make a slide with me. Isn't this cool? If we were in a personal mentoring appointment, we might do this with your story. I don't handle them very well. And the third one was what? Thanks, Tim. That's what my husband said earlier today. He goes, Ann, you're really good at doing these slides. And I'm like, I've had a little practice now. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. I don't handle them very well. And the kids disconnect from me. Okay, so there's the 3 parts. So yes, good answer, Melina. We need to ask questions about them. What kind of question could I ask about these 3 parts of what this person brought to their mentoring appointment? So just think about it for a second, and then I'll tell you the answer. If we had a couple more hours, then I could let you. There you go. How do they hand you their emotions? Good question. Every time you can ask a question and listen for an answer, you open the door to interrupt the pattern. So this person, I asked him this question, and I said, what does it mean about you when they hand you their emotions? And what does it mean about them? And she's like, oh, okay, what does it mean about me? And she goes, well, what it means about me is I don't like the way my kids are trying to connect with me. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. Or I don't like I don't like that my kids are handing me their emotions. That's what she said. And I'm like, well, wait a second. That's the action that's happening. That's not the meaning that's happening. What is the meaning that is happening? And it took about 3 times. So here's the thing. When you ask a question, you've got to be willing to get the answer to that question. Because what will usually happen is your brain or the person you're talking to will deflect, not on purpose, but they'll deflect that question. They'll deflect the answer. Politicians do that all the time. You ask them a question, and if they don't want to answer that question, they have a predetermined answer that they are going to give that has nothing to do with that question, but it sounds like a good answer. And so people are willing to say, okay, they answered the question, even if it had nothing to do with the question. Your brain will do that too. And so I have gotten really good at being willing to wait for the actual answer to the question. And I said, those are actions. That's not meaning. I'm like, what does it mean about you? And another way you can ask it is, what are you afraid that it means about you? And I asked her about 3 times. And then she said, oh my gosh, I realized I'm afraid it means that I'm blowing it in my relationship with my kids and that I'm damaging them. And I'm like, there you go. You found the meaning. And we went through each piece of this, and then we typed out the meaning. So the meaning is, I'm damaging them. I'm damaging them. And now we can look at that meaning, the meaning that we assigned. What meaning? The meaning that we assign, and say, well, is that true? Because until we can voice the meaning we are giving to something, it will continue to run as a sabotage pattern in the background. That pattern of self-sabotage will continue to run in the background until I can voice the meaning that I'm giving to something. And so then once she could voice that, I could help her walk through the reprogram process, the reprogramming. So we found it, and then we came up with a simple reprogramming. And so the simple, so let's go back to this previous person. The simple thing was, I think I have to eat the elephant all at once, and then I quit. Simple pattern. I think I have to eat the elephant all at once, then I quit. Okay, that's the simple. So what are you going to do next time? And like I said, I gave her steps. So those steps, now she's going to take and practice. That's what execute here is she's going to go put them into practice. She's going to execute the new steps. Do you think it will go easily and smoothly the first time she practices? Have you guys ever tried to do something different? If you haven't, try brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Try eating your lunch with your non-dominant hand. Try well, I was going to say skateboarding. If you like to skateboard, put your other foot in front. Just try doing something with the opposite side, and you'll quickly find that it is not easy the first time you do it. It isn't. It takes practice. So now we need to talk about this. So why is there, if I can find it and reprogram it and practice it, why is there a 4th step? If you didn't consider that question before, consider it now. If I know how to find it, because how do I find it? I ask good questions. I wait for the answer. I be willing to redirect back to the question instead of letting my brain redirect, instead of letting somebody else redirect. I know how to find it. And how do I reprogram? I simplify it. I simplify it down so that it's not complex, so that my brain won't reject it. Because when it's complex, my brain will reject it. So I come up with a simple implementation pattern. Okay. Now I go practice it. But will I practice it perfectly? No, I won't. So if I just continued in these three, I could break my patterns. But what could expand mean? Well, that comes back to something that my husband and I have both taught in different places in different ways. So let me explain. For me, I like to say that the difference between being a child and an adult has nothing to do with the date on the calendar. In fact, I talk about that kids nowadays, when they reach 18 years old, they are less capable now of navigating the world than people were 20 years ago when they arrived at 18 years old. And a lot of that is because so much gets done for kids nowadays. They don't get to solve as many problems. We have to solve enough problems to arrive at young adult status. Because child is somebody who has to be told what to do. They have to be helped, and they have to have permissions, okay? Something or someone has more say in their life than they do, okay? That's not an age on the calendar. Your stories in your head can have more say in your life than you do. So a child is someone that has to be told or helped or have permission. This is the find. This is the stuck. If we're an adult in the calendar, but we're still behaving in this way, then I need permission. Because a lot of people, I help them discover that they've been waiting for permission from their parents or from their siblings or from God or from some other source. They're waiting for permission before they will take action towards goals in their lives. That a past story has more say in their life than they do. So this is the stuck part. It's the same as being a child. Well, a young adult can reliably do what they are told to do. Okay, a young adult. So this is like a teenager, calendar-wise, but we can be a young adult at any age. But they will reliably do what they're told. They can practice doing what they're told. Where an adult can see what needs done and do it. They can see what needs to be done and do it. They see the bigger picture. So this is stuck. They need the find and the reprogram. If we're at a stage, and you can be this at any calendar age, I don't care how old you are. I see people in their 80s and 90s who can be very stuck. And then young adult, this is where we execute. We practice what somebody else tells us or what we figure out to we figured out in the reprogramming state right here. This one, so that's the execute. That's the third rung on the ladder. The fourth rung is to get to that place where I can see what needs to be done and do it. But this takes a lot of these two. It takes a lot of finding and reprogramming and executing before I can expand and see what needs to be done and do it and see the bigger picture. This is what I've devoted my last 13 years of my life to doing, is being able to do this repeatedly and predictably. That takes work. So does that mean that I never get stuck in the child state back there? Does that mean I never need to go back and practice? Absolutely not. But what's different is I see it more quickly, that I need to go back to here and do it. So for example, I had a person that I held a mentoring appointment with this last week who came to their appointment and they said, I stop at problems because I don't believe there is a solution. Okay, is that mean they're a young adult or an adult or a child? If they stop at problems because they don't believe there's a solution, then there's a story that has more say in their life than they do. Does that make sense? Do you follow that? So answer this one. This person came to their appointment and they said, I can do anything if I can just stop the voices in my head. Where are they at? Child, young adult, or adult? Tell me in the chat. I can do anything if I can just stop the voices in my head. Yeah. Child, right? They're stuck at child. Yeah, we can be there at any time, right? And sometimes we'll be here because, you know, a mom gets to where they see that the children need to get fed and they need to get to bed and they need to have their teeth brushed. They see it and they help it get done. They've learned to see a bigger picture with their kids. And at the same time, they don't see the bigger picture with themselves. That happens all the time. I had a new mom that I was personally mentoring, and they came to their appointment with me, and they were doing exactly that. They could see what the kids were needing, but they couldn't see how to do what they couldn't see what they were needing. And so we can get stuck at child level at any age. I had another person this week that came to their appointment with all kinds of assumptions and judgments. They were making assumptions and judgments about their new spouse. Well, we know that will get us in trouble with any human. When we assume and judge, we will get in trouble. I helped another person this week. They went away with this. So tell me what stage this is at. They said, I realized that my brain, that my brain sees my needs not getting met with 3 times more weight than seeing that my needs are getting met. So where is that at? They're realizing what needs to change. So where are they? They're between these two because they didn't quite have a step. So when they got that, I said, all right, so now what's your action step? What action are you going to take? I don't have to choose actions for people, because if I choose people's actions and they don't do it, then they step into blame. And blame is a child behavior. It's a stuck behavior. It is a stuck sabotage pattern. It's a pattern of self-sabotage. And so I help them to be able to see or be able to answer that question. What action are you going to take? And so they said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go pay attention to my needs getting met and write them down so that I can see that my needs are getting met. So when they did that, now where were they at? Were they at child, young adult, or adult? Right, Melina? They were at young adult. They were making a new choice. They were going to go and practice doing something new. Excellent. Okay, do we have time to go through one more? Do you want to see one? Is this helpful, you guys, to walk through other people's sabotage patterns? Are you learning something? All right, fantastic. So let's look through one more. I love this one. This is a great one. Oh, but I have to, let me make this slide so you can't see it all at once, because it'll be funner that way. It'll be funner to be able to see it one piece at a time. So this person came to their appointment, and this person has a big goal, a big goal. And so when we get a big goal, you know what happens? We get to choose more often. We have to choose faster to get past what's between us and that goal. So this person's goal is huge. So they're going to come up against what's between them and their goal faster. This is why when people join my breakthrough coaching, one of the very first things they do is they're going to watch a whole training that I did on how to set a goal. The reason isn't because I just think it's cool for people to accomplish their goals, which I do. It's because I want people to be able to get face to face with what's between them and that goal. If we play small, we might not get our goals, but we also won't get to face what's between us and that goal. And that's actually more valuable than the goal. Did you know that? Being able to face what's between me and my goal is more valuable than the actual goal. The goal is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Goal is fantastic. But getting to upgrade our patterns of self-sabotage, whoa, that is powerful. That is powerful. Okay, so this person, big goal, ginormous goal. And they come to me and they said, all right, Anne, what do I do? I have this. They came with a specific example again. They said, I have this family member that's driving me crazy. Anybody have a family member that drives them crazy? Please, let's just all raise our hands and get that out in the open. If you don't have a family member that drives you crazy, you need more family members, because that's one of their purposes, is somebody's got to help us to reflect to us what we need to work on. Okay, so she came to me and she goes, I just hate conflict. I hate conflict. And I'm like, all right. Oh, Sharon, that's funny. She says, I'm probably the family member. You're so funny. I love it. So she's like, I just hate conflict. I hate conflict. Anybody else hate conflict? Let me lower these hands. All right. Raise your hand if you hate conflict. Raise both hands, right? Oh, Brenda, I was told once that we either marry or give birth to our greatest challenge in life. Maybe, but what about in-laws, right? They can be a great challenge. Or if they're not, then neighbors, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah, I like that, Vicki. It's true. We got to have a family member that drives us crazy. So she says, I hate conflict. And I'm like, oh, really? Let's walk through the steps. Let's walk through the steps. So my first question is, tell me more about conflict. And she's like, well, I have this sister, right? I just love when stories start like that. I have this family member, and I love it when stories start like this too. I have this family member and they drive everyone crazy. Do you have that kind of family member that they drive everyone crazy? I love to listen to those stories. Those are awesome. So I'm listening to their story and they're telling me about why they hate conflict. And I said, all right, let's make the steps. And so I listened to her story and then we walked through the steps. And I said, all right, what happened after your sister mistreated you? Because that's the word we came up with, is the sister was not nice. She mistreated me. I said, what happened next? And she goes, well, I reacted. She goes, have you ever done that, you guys? Oh, I wish I hadn't have reacted, but I reacted. And over here, I put even a minor reaction, even if it's tiny. Anybody ever have a minor reaction to that family member? I will admit it, right? Yeah, me and Alicia, we're going to admit it, right? We have those reactions. Well, what happens next? Well, what happens next is after we leave the conflict, we overthink it. Because remember this earlier slide? Well, we've gone through a lot of slides. Humans have the ability to re-experience traumatic events over and over and over and over again. How often? Over and over and over again. So many times. And so what do? We will overthink the scenario. And we will, because we're trying to be a good, honest, kind, upgraded individual, because that's you guys. You wouldn't be on this webinar if you weren't trying to be a good, honest, upgrading individual. We find our peace in the conflict. So we overthink and we find our peace. We go, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that one little part. And we admit to it because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to admit to our peace in the conflict. That part can be okay. If I would stop right here and take an interrupt and go this direction, I need to ungroup this. There we go. If I would take an interrupt right here, I would be able to move towards my goal still. But the rest of this cycle is the problem. So she found her peace in the conflict, but now I need to pay penance for what I did that wasn't okay. And this is the kind of scenario where if you just tried to go and apologize to the sister, now the sister would go, oh, right, see, I was okay in what I did. And so we don't like going and apologizing because what they did wasn't okay. But we're just trying to take accountability for the part that we did. Is this resonating with anybody? Right? So then what we do is we beat ourselves up for our piece of it. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I feel so bad. I feel awful for what I did. And so now I also, because I'm beating myself up, I see that either the other person is going to think that they were okay, or I think they were okay. Either way, this cycle continues. So let me say that part one more time. If I go and try to apologize to them for my little piece, if they're this person's sister kind of person, then they're going to say, oh, see, I was okay. Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't have been like that. Anybody ever apologize to that kind of person? Yeah, you shouldn't have behaved like that. And you're like, that's where the word indignant comes in. Why would I'm apologizing for my part? This is your chance to apologize for your part, right? And maybe I'm alone on this one, but I'm betting a few of you that have family members have experienced this. So now I have a contrast. I have a contrast going between what I did and this other person. I see them as good. Now, when I see them as good and me as bad, I'm going to be filled with resentment. And I'm going to be filled with resentment because that's not fair. They were bad too. I'm just admitting to my part and they're not admitting to their part. So what'll happen next? What'll happen next is I will avoid conflict. I will avoid conflict. Why? Because I don't want to have to go through this scenario, especially this part right here, beating myself up and seeing the good in the other person and getting filled with resentment. Who would want to go through that? I'm going to say it this way. Fill up with resentment. But now we do it in the place of being let me try again. We do it in the name of being a peacemaker, right? We're trying to be a peacemaker. And so I'm going to avoid conflict to be a peacemaker. But we don't become a peacemaker. We become a trash compactor. Because instead of trying to help people feel peaceful, we stuff ourselves with the resentment and the feel-bads. So that's my question for you. Have you learned to avoid conflict to be a peacemaker? Or have you become a trash compactor? You don't have to answer that one. In the chat, if you don't want to, that's up to you. But I will admit that in the past, I have avoided conflict, not to be a peacemaker, but I have become a trash compactor. I might have up here thought I was trying to be a peacemaker, but how do I know that I wasn't? Because what I was avoiding was the filling up with resentment. Did I spell it wrong? Compactor, under the kitchen counter. Yep. That's the one problem with this, is sometimes I get misspellings sneak through. And so I helped, when she could see this, right, we could reprogram it. So the simple was, get mistreated, become trash compactor. Well, I don't want that. Okay, so what do I need to do instead? I need an interrupt. And so I helped her find her interrupt. And once she had her interrupt, we could reprogram, choose action steps, and go out and practice them. That's powerful. So look at all these things that people have gone away with this week. I don't have to be perfect to be helpful. Is that positive? Absolutely. I'm going to get good at this. That's what one person said in their appointment this week when we found their actions. They're like, I am going to get good at this. Because the thing is when I help people, when they find this piece right here, like take this one right here. When I showed this person just these first 2 steps, they burst into tears. And often emotion will come up because it's finally has a place to flow in a direction that will help us to grow. Let me say that one more time. We want emotion to flow in the direction that will help us to grow. We don't want emotion to flow in a direction that's going to hurt people or shut us down. That makes us become a trash compactor because we don't want the emotion to go out on anybody else. Look at this one. Willingness is a superpower. If I can feel, acknowledge, and choose. I love that one. It's okay to not have all the answers. Because at the end of a mentoring appointment, I always ask the guy or the girl, I say, so what did you learn? And what actions are you going to take? I always ask those questions at the end. What did you learn? What actions are you going to take? It's not enough to learn alone. You got to take new actions. One person said, I'm learning that I can have freedom of, I can get freedom from doing my exercise in the morning. Because this person realized that they put themselves last. And so all day long, they're like, can I fit it in here? Can I fit it in here? Can I fit it in here? But if they just do it in the morning, now all day long, they're like, yeah, I took care of me. Now I can take care of everything else. And helping me here, me helping in this situation, me helping here doesn't mean I caused the problem. So these are interrupts. These are interrupts. Why do we want interrupts? Well, recently, let me tell you why. Recently, I went to a training at my CrossFit gym, and there was this national athlete that was speaking, and he drew this diagram up on the board. He goes, why do we come to CrossFit? Because he's talking to all these CrossFit people. Why do we come to the gym? He said, and he drew this fuel gauge. He said, the fuel gauge goes from sickness to wellness to fitness. So wellness isn't clear over here. Fitness is. Wellness is only halfway full on our tank. Sickness to wellness to fitness. And he said, most people live their lives right about here. Right about here. Let me get a marker. Most people live their lives right about here. But he said the problem with this is that that we're not very far from being dependent. We're not very far. It doesn't take very much for us to become dependent. If I get injured, if I get hurt, or that's the same thing. If I get sick, my fuel gauge is going to go down to sickness really fast. He said, anybody here ever done a burpee? Do you know what a burpee is? So a burpee is you stand up, you go down to the ground, you do a push-up, you stand up and you jump in the air. That's a burpee. So if you've never heard the term burpee, just Google burpee. In CrossFit, we do a lot of burpees, a lot of burpees. And everybody always whines about it when there's burpees in the workout, because you have to lug your own body weight up and down, up and down, up and down. But he said, think about it. He said, the stronger you are, wrong one, the stronger you are, the longer we can be independent. So he says, the reason we're doing so many burpees is we're keeping our ability to get ourselves back up strong. So let me say that again. We're keeping our ability to get ourselves back up strong. That's why we want fitness. And this guy that was speaking, he's actually the one that programs our workouts. We purchase the workouts from him. He programs them. He goes, so don't expect there to be any lack of burpees in the workout anytime soon. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a mental principle. This is a mental principle, because let's just throw burpees out of the equation. Physical ones. Let's throw push-ups out. How many times do we get knocked down mentally and we don't get back up? How many times do we get knocked down emotionally and we don't get back up? Yeah, resilience, right, Shauna? We need to get mentally stronger, emotionally stronger. We need to get better at getting out of our sabotage programs, you guys. We got to get better at getting out of those sabotage programs. We need to get better at independence from sabotage programs. That's what I stand for. I stand for freedom, because this isn't okay with me. That when it comes to mentally, most people are living their lives about here. They don't even make it up to here, let alone over here. So when I work with people, my intention is to help them have a mental and emotional fitness level, because I'm not okay with people getting knocked down and staying down. That's not what we're here for. We're here to learn how to get back up. We're here to learn how to not get knocked down so easily. Because if we can get knocked down because we're trying to avoid conflict with so many people that we can't even interact, or if we're trying to take care of everyone else's emotions, that's going to keep us weak. That's going to keep us weak. And we are not meant to be weak. You are not meant to be weak. You are meant to be strong. And I believe in your strength. And to have that strength, what do? We've got to choose better than the easy negative. It's easy to choose the negative. It's easy to stay in the stuck sabotage. That's easy, you guys. It's not worth it. The rewards of being healthy, happy, and free are greater than being stuck in self-destructing patterns. We want to get through these steps. That's why I work with people. That's why I work with them every single day. Could I do something else with my life? Absolutely. Could I make more money somewhere else in my life? Absolutely. You guys, I have an engineering degree, and there are so many jobs for engineers right now. I could go work as an engineer all day long. I don't choose that because I believe in you. I know what it feels like to be stuck, to be weak. I know what it's like to live my life right here. That when it comes to mental and emotional strength, I was always at the bottom of the barrel. And I can see it in other people, and I'm not okay with it. And so I am going to work every day of my life to help people have independence from their sabotage programs. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, you guys. It is so much better. It is so much better to live the best version of you instead of the weak version of you. Don't go another day. Don't go another day living the weak version of you. It's time to live the strong version of you. And that's why in breakthrough coaching, we want to activate the happy part of your brain. We want to become inspired by life rather than overwhelmed by it. Break through old patterns instead of spinning around and around in them. Adjust our perceptions and experience more happiness in life. Have more forgiveness for yourself and in your relationships. What are we trying to do? When you come to breakthrough coaching, we are increasing your mental and emotional level to fitness instead of sickness. It's time for more fitness, right? This is what we're here for. We're here to experience the struggle and go through it to the light at the other side. You guys, I don't do this. I started because I was doing this for me. I started there, but it isn't just about me anymore. Now it's about you. It's about people around me. I called my dad the other night. My dad's 82 years old. He just turned 82. For his birthday, he ran 82 flights of stairs. Actually, for his birthday, he ran 83 flights of stairs because he always says he's just started his 83rd year, so he's going to get the steps in early. So my dad ran 83 flights of stairs for his 82nd birthday. And I'm like, I want to be like my dad. But you know what? When it comes to mental and emotional fitness, he's not there. Physical fitness, all the way. Mental, emotional, he's working on here. He was down here much of his life. And my dad, he had a really rough upbringing. He has a lot of reasons to be resentful from his life. A lot of them. So I'm just gonna share something that wasn't in my notes with you. I called him the other day because what's happened in my life is as I have gotten more fitness mentally and emotionally, I open to inspiration faster and I act on inspiration faster. And I got this inspiration that I needed to text my dad. And the message I was supposed to send him didn't make a ton of sense, but I could see why I was being inspired to send it. So I did. And immediately my dad called back, which I knew he would. And I had asked him in the text message if he would send me something that would help one of my children. That's what I asked him for, was for help. But the phone call was not for helping my child. The phone call was to help my dad, because I know that my dad has a deep-seated fear that he's been running from most of his life. And the fear he hadn't ever really been able to put words on. And in this phone call, I said, Dad, what are you actually really afraid of? And he told me, he said, Anne, I'm afraid that God doesn't have the power to save me. I'm afraid of that. And I was like, okay, now that you named it, now naming that fear makes it so that you come up to a door in front of that fear. And you have a choice to open that door and step in to fully feel that fear, walk across that room and open the door at the other side of that room and enter the greater love and light that's available to somebody who faces their fear. And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with my dad, and I walked him through what it looks like to be able to go through a fear and get to the other side where you can access more love and light. But what we usually do is we run and hide from that door. We don't want to face our fears, whatever they are. And so I'm not going to quit doing what I'm doing. If it can help my dad, that makes it worth it. But trust me, if it can help my dad, it can help us all, because we all have struggles, but our struggles, our fears are what we're here to face. And let's just pretend for a minute, this is my hypothesis that I always go off of. Let's pretend for a minute that this planet was created by a God that cares about us, that God is real, that God cares about us. So what do I not understand on this planet? That's what I always ask myself. And so to live the best version of me, I ask that question. Well, if God is good, what is it that I need to understand about my fears? And what I know is this, is that fears are the greatest contrast to heaven. Heaven is not full of fears. God realm is not full of fears. It's full of light and love. And so I came to earth to face my fear so that I could rise above it. The story goes, and I'll have to look up who said this, but the story goes that there was a little spirit in heaven, and the little spirit came to God and said, God, I am light. And God said, yes, you are light. And the little spirit and God reveled together in the fact that the spirit was light. But after a while, the little spirit said to God, what does it mean to be light? I know I'm light, but what does it mean? And God said, well, in order to understand that, little spirit, you would have to feel what darkness is. And the little spirit got excited and said, okay, I want to do that. I want to understand light, so I will be darkness for a while. And God said, yes, little spirit, you can do it. And little spirit said, I choose to do it. And little spirit came to earth and felt what darkness felt like. But when the little spirit could fully walk through the darkness, the little spirit understood what light was. Now, I think I completely didn't quote that perfectly, but the point is, you guys, that's why we're here. If I can face that fear and I can rise above and I can face little fears, little programs, little thought patterns, little sabotage things, and then I can face bigger and bigger ones, guess what I become? I become strong. But another word for strong is light and love. And the more I can do that, the more I contribute to the whole planet getting to feel that. Now, that wasn't in my notes to share all of that, but you guys need to know why I do what I do. I do what I do because I choose to do it. I have completely chosen into what I do. And I want for you to be able to have the understanding I have. I want that for you. And it doesn't matter what age we are on the calendar, we are all here to be able to choose better than the easy negative. We are all here to be able to rise above and become a better version of ourselves. Best doesn't mean perfect. This kind of best means growing. This means becoming better than who we were yesterday. And so when you're part of the Breakthrough Coaching Program, you're going to go through this over and over and over and over and over again. You're going to find, reprogram, execute. You're going to go through this to the point that you can stand on this fourth rung of the ladder. You can stand up here and you can be the person who sees what needs to be done and does it instead of hiding or choosing the easier negative. Let's all step into expand. But to do that, I got to understand the other 3 rungs. These other 3 rungs will teach me how to stand on that 4th one. And so I dare you to get in my world, you guys. Get inside my bubble. Let me help you. Anybody who, when people join the Breakthrough Coaching Program, we're going to use body and mind and emotion science to break through your past programming. We're going to build belief in you and your ability through consistent practice and change behavior and results with education and application. But most of all, achieve confidence. We're going to learn to stand on that 4th rung of the ladder. And so if you want to be part of the Breakthrough Coaching Program, book a call with me. If you want to personally mentor with me, book a call with me. Let me answer those questions, you guys. I need more people linking arms with me to spread more love and light on this planet. And so I checked my calendar, and I have 5 phone calls available tomorrow. I have 5 available tomorrow. Other than that, you would have to schedule to talk to me next week. I have a few openings next week, but I want to talk to you. I'll answer your questions. I'll give you the links that will show you all the information about Breakthrough Coaching, or I'll answer all your questions about personal mentoring with me. If you're in my Breakthrough Coaching, I love that you're here on this webinar. But if you're there and you've ever thought about personally mentoring with me, schedule a call so that I can tell you, you get extra special treatment and tuition because you've already been in my Breakthrough Coaching. Also, if you've already been in Breakthrough Coaching in the past and you want to get back in it, book a call so I can give you a special deal to be able to come back and do it again. Because there is no shame or problem at all in redoing these 3 steps. We're going to do them lots and lots. I had to redo them this week. I have places in my life that I'm still working on. But I stand on this 4th rung of the ladder a lot more than I used to. 13 years ago, I had never even gotten to the 2nd rung of the ladder. You guys, literally, I had never gotten to the 2nd rung of the ladder in my life 13 years ago. And so I would love to talk to you. So book that call with me. Either scan this with your phone, type this URL into your browser, or you can click the link that Adam put in the chat. You can just click on that and it will open a window that will bring up some questions. And what do questions do, guys? Questions open your mind to new information. So of course, the first thing you're going to do when you book a phone call with me is you're going to answer some questions. And they are powerful mentoring questions. They will cause you to think. So even if I dare you, if you're like, no, I'm not going to schedule a call with Ann, or there's no way I could do that right now, or whatever, I dare you, open the link and go through and answer the questions. And then decide if you're going to push send and book the call, or if you're just going to cancel and not. You'll still will have answered the questions. So do it. So all of you guys, any of you that are already in Breakthrough Coaching or personal mentoring with me, do what I just said. Open the link, answer the questions. Even if you don't need to book a call with me, let yourself be mentored a little bit further. So there's five available. If you have any trouble scheduling the phone call, you can email support@3keyelements.com. and they will help you make sure that you get an appointment scheduled. When you register for Breakthrough Coaching, you get your own member library. And it's so cool, you guys, because in the member library, there are pre-recorded modules that are going to help you set up systems and overcome fears in your life. And And recently, I just did a bonus that's in your bonus content called Introduction for New Students. And in there, I walk through and I tell you about all 6 of these modules and why you want to do them. Because in the past, sometimes people have gotten stuck. They've just done the first module and then they didn't do the other ones. Imagine that. We can get stuck sometimes. But you can actually do these modules more than once and they will serve you. Like module 3, where you overcome fears and negativity. Oh, that's one that I do regularly in my life. I'm going to teach you how to do a review of your week so that you are moving forward towards what you want, because we can get stuck. Remember, our brain doesn't want us to see how to interrupt patterns. It doesn't want that, because that would mean that we would be taking the not easy path. Remember, the negativity is easier. The first 5 people to join Breakthrough Coaching are going to get a bonus. And that bonus is the first 5 people. The bonus is, oh, I didn't even write it here. Well, let's write it right now. So the first 5 people to register are going to get 2 personal mentoring appointments with me. So just like I helped all of those people that I talked about today, those were all appointments from this week. I'll help you too. So you can come to Breakthrough Coaching, and every Monday we're going to have a 2-hour session where I teach you things that are going on in the world that you want to watch out for. And you can ask questions. But on top of that, you're going to get 2 personal mentoring appointments with me where we can work on your patterns, your sabotage patterns. Okay? So you want to book the call. Open the link. Have you opened the link? Raise your hand if you've opened the link, because everybody needs to open the link and answer the questions. Because I know some of you are like, oh, no, I don't need to. Yes, you do. Okay. Open the link so you can answer the questions. Raise your hand for me and tell me you've opened it. Don't worry, it'll open in a different window, so you don't have to close this window. Just click on the link and open it so that you have it there and you can answer the questions and schedule a call with me. I know, remember, I'm gonna be willing to wait for you to answer the questions because I believe in you. I'm willing to believe in you longer than you believe in you, because that's what I needed when I first started changing. That's what I needed. So look at this. Scott says, working with Ann is the best investment in me that I have ever made. I love that. Corinne says, I absolutely love working with Ann. As a mentor, she helps me see things differently. And when I can see differently, I can do differently. Sue said, it's been so valuable for me to be in Breakthrough Coaching because it's helped me emotionally a ton. It's helped me to understand myself and how my brain works. You guys, it matters. You are worth it. You've been struggling with this for years, wishing someone would help. Here I am. Will you go for it? Will you do it? Will you believe in your amazingness? Will you choose in? Will you choose into rising above just sickness or wellness when it comes to your mental and emotional strength? How about your ability to get past fears? Let's get you up here. It's worth it. So book a call. Let's talk. Let's talk. Oh, I love that, Liz. I love it. I'm so glad you guys have been here. All right. Way to be accountable. All of you guys that raised your hand and told me you opened the link so that you can answer the questions and book the call. Book the call. Remember, you don't have to book the call. You cannot book the call, but I don't recommend that because I'm going to be the one that calls you. I'm going to call you. It'll be me. It'll say something like 3 key elements is calling, or maybe 3 key elements, however it says it nowadays. And when you open your phone, it's going to be me. And I'm going to say, hi, how are you doing? And we're going to talk. We're going to talk for 30 minutes. And I'm going to answer your questions about the programs. I'm going to ask you questions. I can't help myself. I have to ask questions because I know the power of questions. They have moved me up so many levels in my life. So believe in the future, amazing, beautiful, powerful version of you that you are becoming. Believe in that person enough to let somebody help you get there. Our brain doesn't want to see past our patterns. So you know what our brain does? It hides them from us. So that's why I've devoted my life to being able to see the programs that you can't see. And I'll show them to you. And we'll make a plan and you can go take the steps. Okay, if you have any questions about it, go ahead and the link takes you to the vision board training. No, it should not do that. Adam, can you help her? Did anybody else try the link? Okay, I know you opened it, but try the link and tell me if it goes to book a call page. Talk to Ann. So try that for me, Lee, and see what that does. Okay, somebody tell me in the chat, have you gone to the link and does it go to the book a call? Let me look on my end here. Okay. Diane says there's a video there, no questions. All right, so use this link then. Type this in, this short link. Talk to Ann. If you use that one should work. So which one did you try, Diane? Did you try the QR code? Did you try the QR code or did you click on the one that Adam did? Oh, the link that Adam had. Okay, that's good to know. So can you type this in and tell me if that works? Let's see. I'm going to try it and see what happens. Okay, there is a video with the book a call, but you should be able to. Oh, Diane, if you scroll up, you should be able to get to the calendar and then you'll click on the day and then it'll let you pick a time. Okay, so click on the day, then pick the time, then answer the questions. So you will have to. Okay, every time Lee clicks on it, Adam, it goes to the vision board. Lee, did you try typing it in? Did that work? We will solve technology right here and right now. So you guys are going to go in, you're going to type 3ke.to/talk to Ann. You're going to scroll to the bottom and click a day and time, then it will give you the questions. Then you answer the questions, actually answer them, type your answers in, and then you can book the call with me. Cool? All right, you guys are fantastic. So the last thing I want to know from you in the chat, I want you to tell me, what did you learn and what are you going to do? Those are the questions I ask to everybody that I mentor. What did you learn and what action are you going to take? So tell me that in the chat before you go, all right? Because I am here for your freedom. I wore my patriotic colors today. We did patriotic colors in our webinar because what we want to do is be able to break free of those old patterns. It's time to get that freedom. It's time to get there. All right, Adam made a new link right there. Fantastic, I love it. So did you answer your questions at the beginning of the webinar? If you got on late, take a picture of this and answer these. Face your fear and rise above it. Love it, Jody. So good to see you. Okay, remember, this book a call works for if you want to personally mentor, It works if you want to do breakthrough coaching, and it works if you want to come back to breakthrough coaching. It works for all of those. Okay, so click this, type that, answer the question. Oh, Melina, that's good. My brain isn't interested in my happiness, so I need to be. Good. Face my fear and rise above it. So answer those last two questions. I'm going to stay on here for a few minutes if anybody has any last minute questions. You guys are awesome. You are worth it. You matter. I care about you. I believe in you. I believe in you. Now you believe in you. Have a great night, you guys.